There's a saying in NA and AA circles that it works if you work it. And this saying refers to the program. It's a natural process going from addiction through the steps to recovery. Now, the 12 steps aren't necessarily linear, and you don't have to follow them by heart. You do have to work your own recovery. If you want to get sober, you're going to have to put in the effort and the dedication, and I mean sweat, blood, and tears. Recovery is not easy. It's easier than living in addiction, but it's not easy to attain recovery. And it's not easy living in addiction either. But addiction is definitely the easy route. It's pretty well checking out of life and saying you can't cope, you can't deal with the daily background stressors and the personal stressors of your own life. So you use alcohol and drugs and substances to numb yourself so you don't have to feel anymore. And then you get to a certain point where you don't even know if you can feel emotion anymore. So you drink yourself into a dizzy spell just to see if you can make yourself feel. I know because I've been there. I come from over 20 years of active experience in addiction. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've had periods of sobriety and periods of heavy substance and drug use and alcohol use. And now I'm over a year sober, and this is the longest I've been sober off of every substance since I was a teen. You have to reach a point where the pain of living in addiction is greater than the pain that it's suppressing. The pleasure that you get from the drugs and alcohol, at a certain point, you're going to reach a threshold where the pain surpasses the pleasure that numbs the pain you're trying to suppress with the drugs and alcohol. Once you reach that point, that'll be your rock bottom. That'll be your breaking point where you'll either fall deeper into addiction or you'll look for a way out. Now, this can take indeterminable amount of time. It could happen within months, it could happen within years, it could happen in weeks. It all depends at where you're at and how much you want sobriety and recovery. You have to want a sober life more than you want to keep living in your current situation in addiction. Until that desire to live a better and more fulfilling life surpasses the pain that the drugs and alcohol are numbing, you're not going to get sober. That's the hard truth. You're not going to get sober until you reach that point where you're absolutely done with the drugs and alcohol, because you're just going to keep cycling into relapse. You might get sober for a little bit, but at some point you're going to either feel bored, you're going to have this uncomfortable feeling, you're going to have an urge and a drive to go out and drink. Maybe you might think you can moderate yourself, and then you'll end up going back into the drugs and substances. That's what I did. I did that for 6 of the last 7 years of my 20 years in addiction. I knew I needed help. I tried getting sober on my own, and I kept getting sober for a little bit, maybe 4 or 5 weeks at a time, maybe 2 months tops, and then I'd feel good. And I would actually feel too good. I'd feel bored. I think I would say to myself that I can moderate my alcohol use. Maybe I could smoke some weed, have a beer with a steak dinner or something. And then I'm just spiraling out into a 3, 4, or 5 day bender. And then at the end of that, I'm feeling so bad, I have to drink just to get rid of my guilt and shame and the hangover. And then I'm right back into the cycle of addiction again. So until you're done with that, until you're absolutely finished with that kind of life and you want to live a fulfilling, better, wholesome life, you're not going to get sober. So you have to reconcile this tension between the pain that's being suppressed by the alcohol and the drugs and the substances, and then the life that you want to live in sobriety without the drugs, alcohol, and substances. Because when you get sober, that pain, your feelings, they're still going to be there. The thing is, are you going to be able to cope with them? Are you going to be able to handle them? Are you going to be able to handle the everyday background stressors of life, your personal stressors, and then the big event stressors that we can't predict, the cataclysmic stressors in life? And we can't keep going back to the bottle or to smoking weed or numbing ourselves, because that's just burying the problems, repressing our issues, and that leads to long-term mental deficiencies and mental health problems, mental illness, the depression, anxiety, general anxiety disorder. We walk around anxious all the time. We don't know why. It's because we're repressing our feelings and we're not handling our normal everyday stressors. So we have to cope with external sources and stimulus to numb ourselves from feeling the everyday pain of existence. I mean, we all go through pain, we all go through sorrow, we all go through trouble and heartache and struggles. But if we're not dealing with it properly, then we're going to turn to substances and alcohol to take care of our problems. But it's not really taking care of our problems, it's really just burying them deep into us to the point where they'll erupt, and that turns into a cataclysmic event, whether it affects us or others around us. And if you're in addiction, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those moments where everything just blows up and you have to start over again with new friends, new environment. I hope this video finds you well. You can get sober if you want to, but you have to want sobriety more than the dread of the life and addiction that you're currently living. So give me a like and subscribe. Check out this video for more.